Okay, welcome back to part 5 of the cowl. This week we're on row 136 where we're beginning, and we've got the lovely sort of softer blue yarn, and then shortly I'll be using this lovely orange as well. So let's get started with this. So the first one is a 1 chain, and as you know I like to do that with the tail, and then we get the working yarn moving, and we're going to do 1 double crochet into the first 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then that was just a reminder that we are going to now be making a bobble, and so now I need the orange yarn. We haven't swapped to the orange yarn. We're not doing that for the bobbles. We are starting the bobbles with the orange at this point. So you need to get the yarn over the hook and then in, and then bring that back through, and then round and through 2. So we're doing trebles, and it's a little bit tricky. I think I did these before where I actually anchored the yarn in behind. So we wrap, go into the same hole again, bring it back through, round and through 2. So we're part doing our trebles, and we're going to do 5 of these. That's 3, 4, 5. So you've now got 1 blue stitch and 5 orange stitches, and then we grab the blue yarn again and we pull through all of them to finish the stitch off, and then we start again doing double crochet, so into the very next stitch. Hopefully you can see where that is, and we need to be carrying the orange yarn across the back. So make sure you get the working yarn there. I haven't got enough fingers now. So let's get that anchored properly, and make sure that I've got the working thread that I'm anchoring in. And we do a double crochet. We're going to do 5 double crochets. I like to make that one quite tight because then it pushes the orange bobble forward. And we're wanting to force this bobble through to the front of the crochet, not the back. Okay. If you feel it's sort of pushing itself through to the back, you can literally just shove it back through to the front. It's quite pliable on those points. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I've carried the orange across, and it's now a little bit easier. So drop the blue for a minute, wrap into the next hole, pull it back through, round and through 2, and then we do this for a further 4, so that when we've finished you've got your 5 individual oranges on your hook. So all those partly done trebles. Got to your 5 stitches again, find your blue, bring that neatly through them all, and then start again. You can see how easy it is to force it to the back, but once you've worked that first double crochet, just push it to the front. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then I'm on for my next bobble. So that's what we're doing for this row, and we'll see you at the other end very shortly. So here we are at the end, and we're finishing off with a double crochet into that very first stitch there. So you'll have 6 double crochets at the end, just like you did at the beginning. Don't fasten off your colour because you will need it for the next row, but you won't be needing the orange. So that's how the back should look, and the front. Okay, row 137. Just making sure as I go along I'm going to be pushing all those to the other side because we are on the wrong side now. So we do a chain of 3. That counts as our first treble, and then working a nice easy treble into every stitch to the end. So, and when you were doing the orange bobbles but started and finished with a blue stitch, that's to make it easier to just continue across. So you can see how you're going under that one there, and just working standard UK trebles all the way to the other end. Okay, we'll see you shortly at the other end of the row. So here we are at the end of the row, and we're going to join in with the nice lime green at the end of this row. So that's how you're looking from the back, and that's what you've got from the front. Okay, we'll see you in a moment with the next row. Okay, so here we are with the nice lime green, and I'll sew the ends in of the others very shortly, but I do like to get started sometimes before I sew the other ends in. So I'm doing 1 chain with the tail, doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're doing a nice simple UK double crochet all the way along this row. So nice and simple, gives it a nice firm clean line going across. Okay, we'll see you shortly at the other end of the row. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and we're finishing in that final chain of 3 with a double crochet. Don't break off your yarn, you will need it for the next row, so we'll see you very soon for row 139. Okay, so on this row you will be increasing in your stitches, so it's not one where you can count your numbers easily at the end, although it does give you a stitch count. So chain doesn't count as a stitch, and 1 UK double crochet in your first stitch. Then we are doing a half treble. That's where you get your 3 and you pull through all 3, and then a treble, each one into the next stitch, and then we've got 3 double trebles. So a double treble is 2 wraps in, round and back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, so we're completing it, and then again 1, 2, 3, and then wrap twice again, all these 3 into the same hole, and this is where your increase is happening. So 1 stitch has turned into 3, then we do a treble and a half treble and a double crochet, and that is building us that nice fan shape again that we've done before. And then we go back to a half treble and treble, so each stitch is getting longer, and then the double trebles, so 2 wraps in, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, and then another double wrap into the same hole, and again. So that's 3 double trebles into the same hole, then a standard UK treble, a half treble and a double crochet, and that's back to creating this nice fan shape that we've got going. So we'll see you again at the end of the row, and if you've counted right you'll have 193 stitches. Okay, so here we are at the end, and I'm just working on the final double crochet, and then bring over your next yarn and do the final pull through. Mine's in the violet, so the nice bright purple, so that's where we should be when we get to the end of this row. See you again soon. Okay, so row 140, you anchor with a single chain as we do regularly, and then this time we're missing that first stitch and we're going to work into the next stitch along. So normally I'd have gone back and worked into that first one, but we have to work a little bit of a decrease in order to keep the stitch count right. So you miss that, work a double crochet. So normally I'd have gone into there. You go into that one, and then we're doing another 2 individual double crochet, and you can see where I've marked that one, which is the middle of those 3 stitches that we worked before, and I'm going to put 3 double crochet into that one. So this should start to ring a bell. We have done this style of row before. Then we do 2 individual double crochet, and then we work in double crochet 3 together. So in, bring it back through, into the next one, bring it back through, into the next one, bring it back through, and then we pull through all 3 together. Then we work in 2 individual crochet, 2 double crochet, and then we take the next one out, and then I'm working 3 into that one. Okay, and then it's back to 2 individual, and then the double crochet 3 together. So in and through, and bring it back through, into the next one, bring it back through, pull through all 4 stitches. So we're going to carry on like that all the way across the row, just making a nice emphasis to this zigzag effect. Okay, see you shortly at the other end. So here we are at the end, and I'm going to work the final 2 stitches as a double crochet 2 together. So we've got the 3 into 1, 2 individuals, and then double crochet 2 together, and that evens out the increasing and the decreasing over the row. Right, I'll see you again in a moment for the next row. Okay, so this next row is identical to the one that you've just worked. So we do a 1 chain, and we're doing a 1 treble, a 1 double, missing that first stitch there. Then we're doing 2 individual double crochet, and that takes us to the center one of these 3 stitches we worked here, and we work 3 double crochet into that one. Then we've got 2 individual double crochet, and then double crochet 3 together. So it's just the same as before, so it's a nice easy one just to sit and work through. So I'm back at that center stitch again, working 3 into that center peak. Okay, So this is obviously the reverse side of the work. So with 2 more double crochet and then double crochet 3 together all the way across. Right, we'll see you in a little while at the other end. So here we are at the end of the row, and I'm just working double crochet 2 together. So I've gone from my original stitch into the next 2 holes and brought the loop through, and then on the final pull through we are changing yarns. So that's yarn J, which for me is this lovely clementine colour, and there we go. That's the end of this last row. We'll join you again in a moment for the next one. Okay, row 142, a little bit trickier than some of the rows we've done, but one we have, I'm pretty sure, worked before. So we start with a chain of 3, so I've done 1 with the tail and 2 with the working yarn. We're not working into the first stitch because we are decreasing. So we're now going to work a double treble. So that was a 2 wrap in the hole, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2 again. Then we're working a treble, all into different stitches, so we're working across the row. Then a half treble, and we pull through everything together. And then I've marked this stitch just to really emphasise where it is. This is going to be a double crochet because we are flattening out the line. So that's my double, and then we've got a half treble and a normal treble. These are all UK obviously, and then the double treble 3 together. So double wrap in, grab it, bring it back through, round and through 2, and around and through 2, and then we double wrap again into the next hole, grab it, bring it back through, wrap and through 2, wrap and through 2, so each time we end up with that extra stitch, and then double wrap again into the next one, bring it back through, wrap and through 2, wrap and through 2, and at this point we've got 4 on the needle, which is the original one plus the 3 that I've made there, and then we pull through all 3, and that's a double treble 3 together, so we pull 3 stitches into 1. Then we have a treble, half treble, taking that out, and double crochet, and then we go back into the half treble, treble, and the double treble 3 together, and we're going to keep working these combinations all the way across the row. So let's do the final one of those. Back to your 4 stitches, pull it all the way through, and then a treble. So I will let you carry on with that. As I say, I'm certain we've done this style of row before, probably just in a different colour, so it shouldn't be too difficult for you. Okay, we'll see you again very soon. Okay, so here we are at the end, and you can see how that's nicely straightened off and flattened off that line, and then the final stitches are double crochet 2 together rather than 3, so I'm just doing to that point and then through all 3 on those, and we're not changing colour just yet, so we can hang on to that colour now. We'll see you in the next one. Okay, row 143, we're doing a 1 chain to start with, and then we're doing a 1 double crochet. That's in the UK terms single crochet if you're in the American terms, and we're doing that all the way across, and this is to stabilize that row and make it nice and firm all the way across. So oops, that's where we are at this point, and we will see you at the other end because there's just a little bit to note at the other end. Okay, right, so as you can see we're at the end, and I'm working the final double crochet actually into the top of this stitch. We're not working into the chain of 3 here because that was part of the decrease that we were working. So with this final stitch that I'm working here, you should have then 145 stitches on. We're then changing yarns, and I'm back to yarn G, which for me is the ecru, and I'm just going to pull that through. I'll be cutting off the orange in a moment, but for the next few rows we're going to be using the ecru. Okay, row 144. We've 2 colours going on here. We have the ecru or a white, whichever you're using, and we need some black. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to get the row started. So I'm doing a 1 chain as usual with the tail. Oh, start again with the tail, and I'm just going to push the orange yarn out of the way. I will be sewing that in shortly. Okay, so I've got my 1 chain, and then we need to work 10 double crochet, and I am going back into that first stitch because as usual that 1 chain doesn't count as a stitch. Now I'm just going to do a couple, and then in a moment we need to use the black yarn to start making some bobbles, and the way we do that, it will be easier if I have anchored that black yarn in at the back. So I'm actually holding it at the back of the work, and I'm going to crochet over some of it till I get to my 10 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So we complete the 10th one or stitch with the cream. I'm now going to take this out because that was just to help show where the bobble was going to be worked. Now my reason for anchoring it in such a way is that now I need to wrap it and go into the hole, bring it back through, do round and through 2. Now if that black yarn was sort of flailing about at the back, it makes that first stitch really difficult. So it's actually easier if you can anchor your yarn into it. So the bobble is you wrap, you go into the hole, grab some yarn, bring it back through, round and through 2. So we're kind of doing a part treble, I suppose, there, but anyway, we won't worry too much about that. And we need to do this 5 times for the bobble. So we've got 5 black stitches there and 1 white, and then we're going to get the white yarn and pull all of that through with the white yarn so that just the bobble is made in black. And as we go along, we're going to force these bobbles through to the front as we've done before. Whoops, I need to find my next hole now. I'm now going to work another 3 double crochet in the cream, and again I need to carry the black yarn along with me and crochet over it. So that's into the hole, making sure we wrap the black yarn. Pull that through, and again. And then we're to our next bobble. So just move the cream yarn out of the way. So here we go, we wrap, go into the next hole, grab it, pull it back through, wrap and through 2, and then we'll repeat that again. So that's 2 stitches, wrap, bring it back through, always in the same hole, 3, 4, 5 stitches there, so 5 black, 1 cream, grab the cream, pull all the way through, and this time we're going to carry on working. Don't worry if the black stitch seems to head to the back a little bit, we can push that back through when we're ready, and just force it through to the front of the work. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. The weight of the blanket's getting quite heavy now, so it keeps dragging away from me. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then we're back to working more bobbles. Okay, I'm going to pause there so you can see I've got my 2 bobbles there, and I'm about to work another 2 bobbles here. So we're going to go all the way along the row with 10 double crochet and then a bobble, and then 3 double crochet and a bobble, and then back to 10 double crochet at the other side, and these are going to make part of the notes. Okay, we'll see you at the other end shortly. So here we are at the end, so you've got your final 2 pairs of bobbles, and then we're finishing with 10 double crochet, and that takes us to a nice neat edge. Okay, we'll see you in a moment with the next row. Okay, so we have turned the work. We're now on row 145, and you can see how I've crocheted over some of the black yarn at the end, and I will sew that in properly very shortly. We're now doing a really easy row of 1 chain to start. Doesn't count as a stitch, so I'm working right into that first one again, and then we're doing a whole row of double crochet to create some more of the white background for the black notes. So you can see it's forming a nice tight flat row there to help anchor these in, and you are working into, just show you this, yarns coming towards me, going in under both of those. So you need a nice firm anchor, not into the actual black yarn, just into the stitch at the top. 2, 3. You can see there that one was a bit easier. We're going underneath that. Okay. So we'll carry on working across the row. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and I'm working a double crochet into that final stitch there. We're going to turn the work now, but we're not changing colours, so just stay as you are. Okay, so we're on row 146, a lovely simple row. So a chain of 3 to start with, and then 1 treble into every stitch. Don't work into the first stitch because the chain of 3 counts as one of the trebles. and this is a row where you should have 145 stitches when you get to the end. So nice standard, that's a UK treble, all the way across to the other end. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and we're finishing with a treble. Again, we're not changing colour, we're just going to turn and work another row. Okay, see you in a moment. Okay, so really easy row, just the same as a couple of rows back. We're doing a chain of one, that doesn't count as a stitch, so we're doing double crochets then all the way across the row, and this is to create your white background for the rest of the musical notes to be worked against. So there you go, that's what we're doing next, and we'll see you very shortly at the other end of the row. So we're at the end of the row, and I'm finishing off with a double crochet there. We are continuing part of this next row with the cream yarn, so don't fasten off. I'll explain a little bit more as we get onto the next row. Okay, row 148, we're adding the rest of the musical note in. So this one is a little bit more challenging than some of the others, but you've definitely done it before. So we're going to do a one chain, and we're going to do a double crochet into each of the next 10 stitches. Now we do need to join the black yarn in shortly, and as I mentioned once before in one of the other rows, I find it easier when you're trying to sort of join a yarn in where you suddenly need to start. It's quite useful to have it anchored in before then. So I am going to crochet round it, just to give me something where I've got that little bit of grip on the yarn. Oops, I've lost one. So do a couple more, and then I'll just need to count, because I need 10 double crochet at this point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that's 10. Now we do need to bring the black yarn into play now, so I'm going to pull through with the black yarn to complete that stitch, and this is where I wanted a little bit more sort of grip to this. So we're working a front post triple treble, so that's 1, 2, 3 for triple, and then we're going into a double crochet just before the note. Now if you were coming from the other end, so I'll just start that one again, I've lost my grip. They do take a bit of doing these to start with, but you do get into the swing of them. So there we go, bring that through. You need it fairly firm but not too tight. You don't want it to pucker the work, but you also don't want it too loose. So that's round and through 2, round and through another 2, round and through another 2, and then round and through the final 2. And you can just give the cream yarn a bit of a tug there to straighten it off. You could, if you were making the notes coming from the other direction, work into the note here. I know notes are supposed to be written in at a certain angle and from a certain side. However, it's a blanket and you can be as creative as you want. So if you needed to work at the other side, that's entirely up to you, and it may work well for people crocheting from the left-handed side. Now we do need to carry, in fact I'm just going to undo that last one, because we need to be carrying the white or the cream yarn across. So we are missing a stitch and then working a double crochet into the next 3 stitches using the black yarn. Excuse me. So that's my 3 double crochet. That's just to remind me to miss a stitch. and work my next triple treble. So I've done 3 wraps. I'm going in at this side and behind, so it's around the post. There we go. Round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, and when we come to the final round and through 2, we do need to swap back to the cream yarn. Now make sure you're carrying the black yarn across the back. So here I'm missing this stitch and I'm going to work into that one, tucking the black yarn in at the back, and then we are working another 10 stitches across there. So I'll just pause at that point so you can see how we've worked around the stitch before each one to complete that. And I've got 3 in the middle, and if I turn it over, there's actually 2 missed stitches there, and we do need that in order for the stitch count to be right. Okay, so it's blocks of 10 double crochet, then we've got a triple treble around the front post, 3 double crochet and another triple treble around the front post, and then 10 stitches, 10 cream stitches to the next one. Okay, thanks, we'll see you soon. Okay, so here we are at the end, and the final stitch is a double crochet which can be completed in the cream. I'll just pull that out a second so it doesn't make so much noise. So this is what you have at the back where you've been carrying your colours across, and that's what you'll have at the front. So hopefully we've got the tension just right on those, and we don't end up with anything that's either puckering it together or too loose. We can now cut off the black yarn and continue in the cream for the next row. Okay, see you in a moment. Okay, row 149. We're going to start with a chain of 2, and that counts as the first half treble. And then we're working, so we're missing that one, and we're working a half treble, which is pulling all the way through. So wrap in, bring it back through, round and through all 3 stitches. So we're going to be working those all the way to our 5 black stitches. So you should have a chain of 2 and then 9 half trebles. And then, so 2, 4, 6, 8, one more, makes it 9. Just watch out for that, it is quite easy to lose a stitch at that point. And then we're working half trebles into this front loop. So along here there are front loops, and then that is actually the back loop for this particular stitch because we're working along the back, but it is the front, that's the front of the work. So we're going into this loop here, and we're working 5 half trebles into that loop, and that keeps the black stitch nice and prominent and just looks better on the finished blanket. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half trebles, and then we're doing another 10 half trebles, but this time when we're on the cream yarn we're going under both loops. So for the cream sections you're getting a much more robust join, really. Okay, so that's how it will look on the front, so you can see how it's kept a much bigger presence for it at the front. So back loop only on these 5, but into the full under the 2 loops on all the other stitches, and we'll see you at the other end shortly. Okay, here we are at the end, and we're now bringing in the lovely Azure yarn, which for me is, that's yarn A at the end of the row. So we'll join you again very shortly. That's what you'll have, not as pretty at the back, but looking good at the front. Okay, see you soon. Okay, so nice easy row. For row 150 we are doing a chain of 3, so I've got 1 with the tail, 2 with the working yarn, and then we're working a nice easy treble into every stitch. So I'm not going back into that stitch, I'm moving on to the first one, which I've got the working yarn there, sorry, to the next stitch on. We don't want to end up where we've created a stitch, so just be a little bit careful where you start to work, and we're going to work trebles all the way to the end. Okay, we'll see you shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and as I go with the final stitch, I'm then joining in this lovely sunshine yellow at the end. So just double check at this point you've got the right stitch count, because it's quite easy to either lose or gain a stitch on these simple treble rows. So there we go, we'll see you again very soon with the next row. Okay, row 151. We're not fastening off the blue yarn, so leave that for later. We will be rejoining it again shortly. There's no turning chain on this one. We are doing a slip stitch, so you go through both, that's to start, and then we're doing a treble into the next stitch. That's a UK treble, and then a slip stitch. Oops, I did a double then, and then a treble, moving on 1 stitch each time. So slip stitch, so you pull it through, and the one on the hook, and a treble. And then what you will get, because we're working across the back of the fabric, when you turn it over you get one of those lovely fancy stitches that we've done before. So it's quite shallow on the back, but there's definitely more to it on the front, and it gives that lovely texture for the front. So we're going to continue that all the way to the end, and you should finish with a slip stitch in that last stitch at the other end. Okay, we will see you shortly at the other end of the row. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and we are fastening off the lovely yellow yarn, and I'm going to sew that in, and then we're not turning the work, we're going back to the beginning. So if we just pause there a moment, I will actually just fasten that one off, and then we're done. Okay, we'll see you very soon at the beginning of the next row. Okay, so we have not turned the work, and we're back at the beginning, and this is row 152. So I have inserted my hook into the first slip stitch of the row below, and I've just picked this yarn back up. This was the one we said not to fasten off. If you've fastened it off, then just pull it back in with a chain at this point. You will just have to sew an extra end in, that's all. And then nice and simple, chain of 3, and then we're working 1 treble into every stitch, and that can feel a little bit tight in places with it being a slip stitch and then a treble, and then a slip stitch and then a treble. So we're going in under these double chain looking type stitches. They are the top of the work, and and say if it's anything like mine, you'll have one that's a little bit tight and one that's a bit more relaxed. So that's all the way along to the other end, and then we'll be changing colour. Okay, see you shortly. Okay, so we're right at the end here, and we need to join the next yarn in, which is the black. So that's yarn I on the sheet. Okay, we'll be back in a moment with the next row. Okay, row 153, lovely and simple. We do a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, which I have done with the tail. I'm now moving on to the proper working yarn, and I am doing a double crochet into that first stitch so that we've got one there, and then a double crochet all the way to the end. So I'm also choosing at this point to crochet over the black tail of yarn, because that saves me a little job of sewing in at the end. I think it's something you'll either have picked up already and you'll like to do, or you'll have decided that you'd rather sew in the bit when you've finished, the tail when you've finished. So we're just doing a nice simple row of double crochet. Okay, we'll see you at the end of the row. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and I'm doing one last double crochet. We're now going to turn and keep using the same colour, so don't fasten anything off at the moment. Okay, exactly the same as we did before. So a 1 chain, a 1 double crochet into that first hole there at the base of the chain, and then we're working double crochets all the way along, and this is to give us a nice firm base for the next part. Do make sure at some point in this that you've got your 145 stitches, because you will need them very soon. Okay, we'll see you shortly at the other end of the row. So here we are at the end. You can see we've got 2 lovely, nice, neat, quite tight rows. They are there to stabilise it. And on the last pull through of the row, we are bringing in the hot pink. So don't cut off the black yarn, you'll need it again shortly. We are going to do rows that's, well, identical to some we've done before, so we'll show you that in just a moment. Okay, row 155. So we're keeping the black yarn tucked neatly out of the way, and with the pink we're doing a 1 chain just to anchor it. Again, that doesn't count as a stitch, and then I'm working a double crochet into that first stitch just to make a nice edging. Then I am missing 2 stitches, so miss 1, miss 2, working into the third, and I'm going to work 5 trebles all into this same stitch. You'll soon see that it's the fan stitch that we've worked before. So that's 3. These are UK trebles, obviously. Don't confuse them with the US version. Right. Then we do a 2 chain. We're going to use that for later. And then we're missing 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to work into that 6th stitch. And I'm doing 5 trebles again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a 2 chain. So we're then going to continue till we get to the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, working into the 6th stitch because we're missing all 5, and we're going back to doing 5 trebles in a nice fan. So we're going to carry that on to the end of the row. The end is slightly different, you may or may not remember, but we'll demo that in just a moment. So we'll see you again very soon. at the other end of the row. So here we are at the end. We've done lots of nice shells and we're in the very final stitch. So at the end you'll find you've got 3 stitches left. We're missing 2 and we're just doing a double crochet into that final stitch, and then we are going to fasten off because we don't need the pink for a little while now. We're not turning the work, we're going back, we're staying on the right side here and we're going back to the beginning. Okay, we'll see you again in a moment. Okay, row 156, and it's pretty much identical to another row that we've already done. So we're rejoining the black yarn here and doing a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch. We are going to do a double crochet into that first stitch. Then we're doing double crochets into the back loop only. So that's that one. 1, 2, a chain, miss 1, and double crochet into the next 2 into the back loop only. We're then finding the middle stitch here and we are doing a double crochet and we're encasing the pink yarn, and then a 1 chain and another double crochet also encasing the pink yarn. So I'm sure you'll start to remember this now. Then 2 UK double crochet into the back loop only of those 2 stitches, a chain, miss 1, back loop only again, and again with the double crochets. So we're working the way all across the row, and we will see you very shortly at the other end. Okay, so here we are at the very end and we're working a double crochet, and we should be joining with yarn F. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there, which is this lovely red, and it's fighting with me. Okay, try again. Final pull through is with the lovely bright red there. Now the next few rows are an exact repeat of some from earlier on in the blanket, so we will be using those little bits of video, so don't worry if this little bit appears to be different. It doesn't matter, it's what's happening on the rows that's important. So as I say, next few rows we'll be using a video from previous, so we'll see you very shortly with the next set. Okay, here we are at the beginning of the next row. So we start this with 3 chains, and as you know I like to do 1 chain with the tail. We are on the wrong side of the fabric right now, so do make sure that you're on the wrong side. So 3 chains, which I have there, and then 2 trebles into, we need to get them completely under, to a nice firm join there. Okay, so that's the first of those. 2 chain, just anchor my yarn properly. I don't quite have my hand set up right for the tension there. 2 chain, and then we're missing all these 5 stitches here, and we're going into that one. So we're going into the chain space that's in the middle, and we're going to do 5 trebles into this chain space. 3, 4, 5. So you can See where you did the two double crochet into the black row below with the one chain space in the middle? We're now making use of that one chain space. So then it's 2 chains and another 5 trebles all into the same hole. Followed by 2 chain. So you can see there you've got sort of a half fan at the beginning, that's what you want, and then full fans as you go along with 2 chains in between. So I will pause there and we'll come back at the end of the row with the explanation of what to do next. Okay. So here we are at the end of the row and we're finishing off with 3 trebles into the last. Oh, do you know what I've missed there? I've missed my 2 chain. That was close. So try again. 3 trebles into the final stitch of the row, and on that final one you're only actually missing the 5 there because you've only got 1 stitch at the end, so where you've been missing this stitch as well and working into the middle, then on this one you're actually working it all into that end one there. So that's how it should look at the moment. We're then going to fasten this off. We're not going to turn because we're going back to the beginning of the row, so if you just get to that point and then we'll see you at the beginning of the next one. Okay, so we haven't turned the work, we are working across the wrong side of the fabric, and I've rejoined the black yarn here and we're going to do a 1 chain. That doesn't count as a stitch, so there. I'm doing a double crochet, that's my first actual stitch, and then we have to work a double crochet into the front loops of these stitches here. So just pull that back slightly, make sure I'm working into the right one. Now I find the best way to do these, there's something about it I'm wanting to work down into it, but actually I'm working up into the stitch there, and I'm going to do a double crochet, and then I'm going to pick up this loop and do another double crochet, and I'll show you the front in a minute. I just want to get a little bit more done. So again, we're working into the chain space here and covering the 2 chain in the middle. So I'm doing a double crochet, a chain and another double crochet. It's a bit more difficult to see in black, I appreciate. And then again, we're wanting to be working some double crochet into these back loops. So that's my first one there. I find the first one can fight with you a little bit, so just bear that in mind. So that's 1 and a second one. Then we're doing a 1 chain, and again we're working a double crochet just into the back loops, and then a double crochet, we're going down 2 rows there, so we're missing that red row and going back into the black one, and then again we need to be working into these back loops. So 1, 2, a chain, miss a stitch, and 2 more double crochet. Now because you're working across the back, the reason you're working into that back loop only is because this is the front here, and you can see how on the pink row it was raised, and because we're working into that back loop only of the other side there, this is also raised, so it's making the front the same going across there. So that's my preferred way of doing it. You could try going in from the other angle. I just think it works so much better going up into that stitch rather than down. So hopefully that's been helpful, and we'll see you at the end of the row to finish that one off. Okay, so we're right at the end of the row. This again, as you can see, is the reverse side, and we are finishing with a double crochet at the end. That's into the very last stitch, and then we're pulling through with the next colour, which for me is this lovely clementine colour. So when we turn round, that's how it looks. Okay, we will see you very shortly in the next row. Okay, so we're doing our one anchor chain there, and then I'll set up, we're doing a double crochet into that first stitch. Then we're going to miss the 3 stitches here, so 1, 2, 3, those 3, and then we are working 5 trebles into that 1 chain space in the middle. So 1, going into the middle, there we go, 2, oops, 3, 4 and 5. So this is very much a repeat of a previous row. Then we've got the 2 chain, then we're missing all the 5 stitches in the middle plus that 6th one there, and we're going to do another 5 trebles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 2 chain, and you can see how this is building up just the same as before, just in a different colour. I'll pause in a moment just to let you have a proper look. 5 and 2 chain. So there we go. Got that nice firm anchor in at the end, and then working into each of these, not forgetting 2 chains in the middle. Okay, we'll see you at the other end of the row shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row. You've done your final set of 5, and we're doing just a double crochet into the last black stitch of the row before. We are going to fasten off this colour now and move back to the beginning of the row, so don't turn your work. Okay, we'll see you at the beginning of the next row in just a moment. Okay, here we are at the start of the next row. So I've popped my hook right back in the beginning there, and we need to rejoin the black yarn. So it's never been fastened off there, never finished, so we can just pull that through, and then we're doing a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're doing a double crochet into that first stitch to give us our anchoring for the side of the blanket. Then we're going to do 2 UK double crochet, one into each of these stitches, then a chain, and then a double crochet, back loop only as well. As you can see, we're working there, so it's a double crochet into the back loop only of those. Then we're working a double crochet into this one chain space here. So that's one, and a chain, and another double crochet. And we've done this style of row before, so I don't think you'll have a problem with it. We're encasing this in this time the orangey coloured one, and then we're back to doing 2 individual double crochet back loops only, one chain and another 2. So we're kind of straightening out the row, not completely, but it's giving a nice edging or a nice definition row to these colours. So we're going to work that all the way along. Okay, we'll see you again in a moment. So here we are right at the end, and we're doing a final double crochet into the end there, but we do need to change colour. So for me that's this lovely bright yellow, so that's going through the final pull through at the end. So that's where we are right now. Okay, so here we are at the beginning of the next row. So this row is done the same as one of the previous rows, so I think you'll pick it up really easily. We've got a chain of 3, and I'm doing one of those with the tail as I normally do. So that's 2 and 3, and then we're doing 2 UK trebles into the same stitch. So that's wrap, in, grab, back through, wrap, through 2, wrap and through 2, and then we do a 2 chain, and then we are working 5 trebles into that one chain space there. So we're missing all these 5 stitches plus that one, working into this middle bit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 chain, miss all those, and then again we're working into the one chain space in the middle with another 5 trebles. So you're going to continue all the way along doing 5 trebles and then a 2 chain, like so. So that's the beginning of it, and we'll see you at the end of the row shortly. Right, so here we are at the end, and we are working 3 trebles into this final stitch, and then we're not turning the work. We're going to cut the thread. Oops, I need to get some better scissors. Right, so we're on the wrong side of the work at the moment, but we're going to stop there, and we're going to go, I'm going to fasten these ends in, and then we're going to go back to the beginning of the row to do the next bit. Okay. Okay, so we're picking back up with the black yarn again, and as it was already at this side we can just fasten it back in. Then we're doing a 1 chain, and that doesn't count as a stitch, so we're doing a double crochet. Again, this gives us a nice firm edge to work into, and then we're doing a double crochet into the front loop, and I like to go down into this stitch to work that, and it helps push the other bit forward, which I'll show you better in a minute. Then, as we've done before, we're doing a double, a chain, and another double, and we're working into the black row, which is the second row down, and we're encasing, sorry, I didn't get in the right place there, we're encasing the yellow there, and then we're back to working double crochet into these front loops here. So a double crochet into each of those, a 1 chain, and then we miss that stitch and work into the next one to get the double crochets. Again, we're working across the wrong side of the work here, so it all evens itself out as you go along, and it nicely pushes forward. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble with focusing there. Okay, that pushes it nicely forward on that one. So I'll just do another one. So a double crochet, a chain, and a double crochet, and then a double crochet into the back loop only, or the front, sorry, the front loop only on these, missing a stitch, and then working into the next 2. So if I turn that over and show you, you can see how nicely it's pushing that forward there. Okay, we'll see you at the other end of the row. Okay, so here we are at the other end of the work. We're still on the reverse side of the crochet here, and we've done 2 double crochets into the back loop only of 2 of the stitches. We're now on to the 3rd stitch, because there were 3 yellow stitches there at the end. So going to pull that through and work a final nice solid double crochet there. Okay, we are going to be turning the work next. We're not changing colour at the moment. Okay, we'll see you in a moment for the next row. Okay, so here we are, beginning of the row. We've got 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, so we're then going to immediately work a double crochet into the stitch. Then we have a double crochet into the next stitch, followed by a half treble. That's where you wrap, go in and pull it back through, and then round and through 3. Then a standard UK treble into the hole between the 2 double crochets on the row below. Then another half treble, a double crochet, then a double crochet into that 1 chain space, and then another double crochet into the next stitch. Then you've got your half treble into the next stitch, miss a stitch, and we're going into that 1 chain space. Oops. Turn Tension's gone funny there. So that's a full UK treble, then half treble, double crochet into the one chain space, another double crochet, half treble, and then a treble. So I think you can then see how that builds up. You're basically flattening the top of the row there. So you've got the treble, the half treble, a full treble into the centre of those two stitches, and then half treble, double crochet into the gap, another double crochet, half treble, treble, and it works its way across that way. So we will see you again shortly at the end of this row, and you should have a nice flat straight edge. Okay, so here we are at the end, and I'm working a double crochet into that final stitch, and then we're going to cut through and fasten off. So that's where we should be, right side facing at this point. We're not turning, we're going to go back to the beginning of this row and then join in with another colour. So we'll see you there in just a moment. Okay, so here we are back with row 164. There's two colours involved here. There's this lovely lime green, which I'm going to start with, and then shortly I'm going to pull another colour in. So I'm doing one chain with the tail, as usual. That doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're doing a double crochet, and as you can see I can pull that a little bit tighter because of doing the one chain with the tail. Now we need to do a further 5 double crochet. However, at this point, because very shortly you can see where I've got these loops, we're going to be pulling this lovely red into the equation. So I'm making bobbles with the red shortly, and as I did on one of the previous rows, I'm going to anchor the red in just by crochet. I'm going to leave a little tail out there because I'll sew it in properly as well, but I'm doing double crochets over the red, and that's just to hold it in place because it makes it so much easier to use. You can just join the red in as you get to this point, however I think it's easier. So I've got my original stitch there, and then I've got 5 double crochet, then into this one that I've marked here, which as you'll notice it's sort of central, well it is central there. We're doing bobbles, so that's a wrap in and pull it back through, round and through 2. So it's kind of, they are sort of trebles, they're on that same theme. And so as before, I'm doing a wrap in, grab it, bring it back through, round and through 2, and I'm going to keep doing that until I have my 5 contrasting colour loops on, plus the original green one. And then as before, we're going to pull that through, and then I'm going to do another 5 double crochet, and I like to pull this quite tight here because I like the bobble to sort of really force forward. And then we need to be carrying the red across the back. So 1, 2, that was my second one, 3, 4, and I'm just going to take that out now because it's getting in my way, 5. So it's nice that you can see, because there's such a contrast here, it's easy to see the stitches. So you've got 5 stitches there, and then we work in another bobble. So a wrap into the next hole, bring it back through, wrap and through 2, and then we keep working that sequence all into the same hole for this next bobble. So that's 3, 4 and 5. Then grab the green yarn, bring that back through, and then if you can push it forward as you're starting. It can be a bit difficult if it ends up at the back. Just shove it back to this side, and again we're working 5 individual double crochet into these next 5 stitches, and as we hit the 6th stitch then here we're going to do another bobble. So we're working that all the way along to the other end. Hopefully when you get to the other end you'll have 6 stitches left to work. So I'll pause there and let you crack on with those, and we'll see you again at the end of the row. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row. I don't need the red anymore, so I'm just going to push that now out of the way. I'm working 5 double crochets from there plus a 6th one at the end, and I'm not changing the green yarn, but I will be cutting off and sewing in the red very shortly. Okay, see you in a moment for the next row. Okay, row 165. So this lovely lime green yarn, and I'm doing a chain of 3, which counts as the first stitch. So that's that one, and then I'm working a UK treble all the way across the row. So that's a wrap in, grab it, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, and again. So we're doing that all the way across the row to the other end, so nice and simple. Sit back and relax, and we'll see you at the other end of the row. Okay, so here we are at the end. I'm just working my final treble, and we are now swapping to yarn H, which for me is this lovely cornflower blue, and I'll be fastening off the green in a moment because we've finished with that for now, and I'll be sewing that in, and then we'll start the next row. Okay, see you in a moment. Okay, row 166, another super simple row. So we're doing the chain of 3, which counts as your first stitch, and then we're working UK trebles into every stitch along. And if you like to do it this way, you can crochet over that tail as well, so that's one less thing to sew in at the end. So I'll just do a couple more. So these are the UK trebles. So wrap in the hole, encase that yarn, bring it back through, wrap through 2, wrap and through 2, and so we're just building another layer on before we work the next more intricate rows shortly. Okay, see you in a moment. Right, here we are at the end. I'm on the final pull through of the last treble, and we're now pulling through the ecru to work the next row. So we will see you very shortly. There's a bit more going on in the next row, so I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, see you soon. Okay, so we're going to start with a 1 chain, and as usual that doesn't count as a stitch, and then I've got a double crochet for the first stitch, and then we can pull them tighter by pulling the spare threads there. So we're now doing a double treble, so that's 2 wraps into your next stitch, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, and then a double crochet. These are all UK terms, of course, into the next stitch, and then another double treble. So that's 2 wraps in, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, and then another double crochet. So as we work these along the line, you've done these before, possibly just in different colours, I can't just remember off the top of my head, and you're getting that raised sort of bobbly stitch there, so you can see how it sticks out. So we're going to carry them on all the way to the other end of the row, and that will put a nice textured row into the middle of the work. Okay, we will see you very shortly at the other end of the row. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, working our final double crochet, and I'm pulling through on that final one with this lovely lime green. Okay, so we will see you in a few moments for the next row. Okay, row 168. So I've cut the cream yarn, and we're now going to work a chain of 3. As usual, first one with the tail, then 2 chains. Then into this bulkier stitch we're working a half treble, so that's all the way through, and then into the less bulky stitch, so the double crochet, we're working a full treble. So let's see, that's going to cost us the neatest. So a half treble followed by a treble. So you can see there how it's giving sort of a more pronounced look. I'm going to go through, it's a bit of a debate whether I go through the front one or the second one. I think it might be neatest if I go through that one. So as long as you're consistent, it will work. So I'm going to go under those 2, pull it all the way through. Okay, so that's the look you're going for, and we will see you again very shortly at the end of the row. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row. I'm finishing on a treble, and my final pull through of this needs to be in the hot pink, which is yarn B. Okay, I think that looks really lovely, and it really helps to push the white row forward. Okay, we'll see you very soon for the next row. Okay, so row 169 is exactly the same as 2 rows before, 167. So we've got 1 chain that doesn't count as a stitch, a double crochet into that first stitch there, and then a double treble into the next stitch. So we're doing another little textured row. So a double crochet there, followed by a double treble. So nice and easy. Just need to concentrate enough that you don't end up missing one of the double treble stitches. Okay, we'll see you again very soon at the other end of the row. Okay, so here we are at the end, and the only difference is that we are pulling through with this lovely turquoisey blue, so it's the Azure colour at the end. So we're now ready to start working the next row. Okay, so here we are at the beginning of row 170. We're going to do 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then we're working a half treble into the next stitch, and then a treble. So this is exactly the same as a couple of rows down, and it's just to level off this row because of course there is a slight difference in height of the stitches. So it's a half treble into the top of that bobble, it's all the way through, and a treble into the double crochet next to it. Okay, we'll see you very shortly at the other end of the row. So here we are at the end of the row, and I'm working the final treble into that last stitch there. Don't break off your yarn, we will need this for the next one. Okay, row 171. 1 chain, as usual, doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're going to work a UK double crochet all the way along the line. This is to give us a nice firm row to work the next bit of patterning into. So just a nice simple UK double crochet all the way along. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and I'm now joining with yarn E, which for me is this lovely violet colour. Okay, might be worth checking just now that you've got your 145 stitches on this row if you didn't do it on the row before. Okay, we'll see you again very soon with the next row. Okay, so row 172, we're doing a chain of 3. So I've started 1 with the tail and 2 with the working yarn, and then let's pull everything nice and tight. So that counts as your first treble, and then we're doing really simple treble into every stitch. So not that one because that's got the chain of 3, and if you want to, you can crochet in these tails so that you don't have anything to sew up or sew in afterwards. It's entirely up to you on that. Some people think it's neater to do it afterwards, some prefer to do it as they're going along. Purely personal preference. So as I say, just a full row of UK trebles, and so that's where we're going with this row, and we'll see you at the other end shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and I've just done my final pull through with the same colour yarn. We're not changing colour, we're just going to turn the work and work back across the row. So see you in a moment with the next set of instructions. So row 173 is a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, and a double crochet into that first one. Then we are going to miss 2 stitches, and we're going to work 5 trebles into the next stitch, 5 UK trebles. So wrap in, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, and we're going to keep doing that till we've got the 5. So I've got my fan now, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we miss 2 stitches and we do a UK double crochet into that one, and then we miss 2 stitches and we start to work the 5 treble fan again. So we've definitely done this style of row before, so it won't be totally brand new to you, so it should be relatively easy. So there we go, I've got my next set of 5, miss 2, work a double crochet. Okay, we'll see you at the other end, just to finish that row off. Okay, see you soon. So here we are at the end of the row. As you can see, it goes right to the very last stitch, and now we're changing colour again. I've got this lovely bright red, so yarn F is coming in, and we will see you in a moment to start the next row. Okay, row 174. So we're starting this with a chain of 3. So I've got the one with the tail and 2 without, and then I'm doing a treble into the next stitch, and I may be asking a lot here, but I'm crocheting in my tails at the same time. Then we're doing a half treble, so we pull all the way through. Then we're doing a double crochet, and another half treble, so we're evening out this row. I've got my yarn snagged. As we go along, then we've got 3 normal UK trebles, just standard ones. 2, 3. So as you'll see, one of those has gone into the lowest stitch there, or the smallest stitch, which was the double crochet. Then we've got a half treble, a double, and a half treble, and then we're back to this middle set again. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3 trebles. So we're working that all the way along. So we've got a half treble, a double, a half treble, and another 3 trebles going on there. So nice easy row for leveling up and straightening off that edge. See you again at the end of the row. Okay, here we are at the end of the row, and I'm working my final treble. So you do finish on 2 trebles there, so that's a double crochet, a half, and then 2 standard trebles. So that's where we're at with there. Don't change yarns or cut anything off. We are using this colour for the next row. Okay. Okay, row 175. We're doing a chain of 3, which counts as your first stitch, and then we're doing 1 treble into every stitch to the end. So that's a lovely simple row, just to give a nice red punch at the top. Okay, see you at the other end of the row. Okay, so here we are on the last stitch of row 175. We're going to fasten off there, and that's the end of week 5. I hope you're feeling good about this. I am loving what we've got. If you haven't sewn all your ends in, now is the moment to get all those ends tied in securely, and then next time we can start to look at the border. Okay, see you soon in part 6.